October 23rd, 1944, 18,000 feet above the German-Belgian border. Lieutenant Robert Bob Klingman sits alone in the cockpit of his F-4U Corsair, engine drumming at a steady 2,300 RPM, when 9 black crosses appear in formation ahead. The Messerschmitts haven't seen him yet. Klingman's aircraft wears experimental tritone camouflage, dark sea blue belly, intermediate blue fuselage, white upper surfaces, a paint scheme designed for Pacific island hopping, not European theater work. He's outnumbered 9-1. What happens next will rewrite the tactical manual on visual combat identification and prove that the most dangerous weapon in the sky isn't always the one you can see. Bob Klingman is 23 years old. He grew up in Minnesota, learning to fly crop dusters over flat farmland where the horizon stretched unbroken and visibility was everything. He enlisted in the Navy in 1942, trained at Pensacola, and earned his wings flying the F-4U Corsair, a fighter the Marines loved and the Navy initially rejected. The Corsair had a reputation. Its inverted gull-wing design was brilliant for carrier operations, allowing shorter landing gear while keeping the massive propeller clear of the deck. But early models had a dangerous stall characteristic. The left wing dropped without warning. Pilots called it the Ensign Eliminator. Klingman didn't care about the nickname. He flew the Corsair like he flew those crop dusters back home, low, tight, and absolutely in control. By October 1944, he's been reassigned to Special Operations Liaison duty, ferrying intelligence officers and flying oddball reconnaissance missions the regular squadrons won't touch. Today's mission is simple: photo reconnaissance of German fuel depots near Aachen. He's flying solo because the mission doesn't raid an escort. His Corsair is painted in that strange three-tone scheme because it was the only available aircraft at the depot in England. The paint job was supposed to make the fighter blend against tropical water and coral atolls. Against the gray-white cloud deck over Belgium, it creates something else entirely, a visual paradox that confuses the human eye at distance. The F-4U Corsair is not a small aircraft. It weighs over 9,000 pounds empty, stretches 33 feet from spinner to tail, and is powered by a Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine, producing 2,000 horsepower. Maximum speed is 417 miles per hour at 19,000 feet. It carries 6 50 caliber Browning machine guns, 3 per wing, with 400 rounds per gun. Rate of fire is 850 rounds per minute per gun, which means Klingman can put 5,100 bullets downrange in 60 seconds if he holds the trigger. But that's theoretical. Experienced pilots fire in 2-second bursts to avoid overheating and barrel warping. The Corsair's cockpit sits far back on the fuselage, giving the pilot excellent visibility upward and to the sides, but limiting forward-downward vision during the critical landing approach phase. That's one reason carrier pilots initially hated it. For Klingman, the rearward cockpit position is an advantage in combat. He can see threats developing above and behind without craning his neck. The gun sight is a Mark 8 reflector sight, projecting a circular reticle onto an angled glass plate. The pilot adjusts a ranging dial to match target wingspan, and the reticle expands or contracts accordingly. When the target fills the reticle, the pilot is within effective range, typically 300 to 400 yards. Klingman has his ranging dial set for the wingspan of a Messerschmitt Bf 109, which is 32 feet 9 inches. He's been expecting trouble. The 9-plane formation is flying in 3 Vics of 3, a standard Luftwaffe tactical arrangement. The lead Vic is at 18,000 feet. The second Vic trails 500 feet behind and 1,000 feet above, at 18,500. The third Vic mirrors the second on the opposite flank, creating an interlocking defensive formation where each pilot can cover another's blind spot. Klingman identifies them as Bf 109 G models, likely the G6 variant. The G6 is fast, 6 miles per hour at 23,000 feet, but the Corsair has a slight speed advantage below 20,000. The 109 is more maneuverable in the horizontal plane, but the Corsair can outdive and outclimb it at lower altitudes, where the Pratt & Whitney's supercharger delivers maximum boost pressure. Klingman knows this. He's studied the performance charts. He's also studied something the charts don't cover: human perception at altitude. At 18,000 feet, the air is thin and cold. Oxygen deprivation affects cognitive function. Reaction time slows. Visual acuity degrades. Color contrast flattens under the pale overcast sky. His tritone camouflage, absurd in any other context, creates an optical disruption. The dark belly reads as shadow. The white topside reads as cloud reflection. The intermediate blue fuselage breaks up the aircraft's outline. At 2 miles distance, the Corsair doesn't look like a fighter. It looks like empty sky. Klingman throttles back slightly. He doesn't want to close too fast. He's approaching from the enemy's 7 o'clock low position, the classic blind spot. The Germans are heading west-northwest, probably returning from an intercept mission or escort duty. Their formation discipline is good. No one's weaving or lagging. That means they're experienced. That also means they're complacent. Experienced pilots in good formation often stop scanning aggressively because they trust the formation to provide mutual protection. Klingman begins a shallow climbing turn, adjusting his angle of approach to come up behind the trailing Vic. He wants the sun behind him, but the overcast is too thick. No matter. The camouflage is working. He's now 1 mile behind the formation, closing at 40 miles per hour differential. No one brakes. No one turns. They haven't seen him. Klingman's breathing is slow and even. His left hand rests lightly on the throttle. His right hand holds the stick with 2 fingers. His thumb hovers over the gun trigger. His eyes flick between the formation, his altitude gauge, his airspeed indicator, and the fuel gauge. He's got 45 minutes of fuel remaining at current throttle setting. Plenty of time. At 3/4 of a mile, Klingman begins to see details. The Messerschmitts are painted in standard late-war Luftwaffe, gray-green upper surfaces with light blue undersides. Red and white fuselage bands identify them as Western Front defenders. Klingman can see the lead pilot's head moving slightly, scanning left and right. Still no reaction. The formation holds steady. Klingman adjusts his climb angle, bringing himself into position behind and below the rearmost Vic's trailing aircraft. This is the moment where math becomes survival. Klingman knows that the human eye detects movement more easily than shape. He needs to minimize his relative motion while maximizing his firing solution. He eases the throttle forward, matching the 109 seconds airspeed about 290 miles per hour indicated. Now he's not closing, he's following. At half a mile, he stabilizes his position, holding formation with the enemy formation as if he were the 10th aircraft in their group. His Corsair rides smoothly in the cold air. The engine note is steady. No one has looked back. Klingman allows himself a single thought. This shouldn't be possible. He waits. Patience is the discipline no flight school teaches explicitly. Klingman learned it from his father, who hunted deer in the Minnesota woods and understood that the man who moves first is the man who loses. At 18,000 feet, following 9 German fighters who don't know he exists, Klingman waits for the formation to make a mistake. It takes 3 minutes. The trailing Vic begins a gentle left turn. The lead and center Vics continue straight. The formation is splitting temporarily, probably to set up a patrol pattern. This is the opening. Klingman eases the stick left, following the trailing Vic into the turn. Now there are only 3 targets. Now the odds are reasonable. He closes to 400 yards. The rearmost 109 is centered in his gun sight. Klingman adjusts the ranging dial fractionally. The reticle contracts. The 109's wingspan fills the circle. Klingman's thumb presses the trigger. 6 50 caliber machine guns fire simultaneously. The sound inside the cockpit is a metallic, hammering roar that drowns out the engine. The Corsair shudders slightly from the recoil. Klingman fires for 2 seconds, 1,700 rounds total. Tracer rounds arc outward in a converging cone. Every fifth round is a tracer. So Klingman sees 340 bright streaks reaching toward the Messerschmitt. He's aiming for the wing root and fuselage junction, where the fuel tanks sit. The first rounds hit low, sparking off the 109's belly armor. Klingman eases the stick forward fractionally, walking the stream of fire upward. Rounds punch through the 109's left wing, tearing fabric and shattering aluminum spars. The wing's leading edge disintegrates. Fuel vapor erupts from ruptured tanks. The 109 snap rolls left and drops into a vertical dive, trailing white smoke. Klingman doesn't watch it fall. He's already pivoting right, tracking the second aircraft in the Vic. The second 109's pilot has seen the tracer fire. He brakes hard left, pulling into a steep climbing turn, a defensive maneuver designed to force an attacker to overshoot or stall out trying to follow. Klingman doesn't follow. He knows the 109's turn radius at this speed and altitude is tighter than the Corsair's. Instead, he pushes the stick forward and dives 500 feet, bleeding altitude for airspeed. The Corsair accelerates rapidly. Klingman levels out at 17,500 feet, now traveling 340 miles per hour. He looks up through the canopy. The 109 is completing its turn, leveling out, searching for the attacker. The pilot is scanning the wrong area. He's looking high and behind, expecting a conventional pursuit. Klingman pulls back on the stick, converting his excess speed into a steep zoom climb. The Corsair rises almost vertically, passing through 18,000 feet, then 18,500. Klingman tops out at 19,000 feet, directly above the 109, inverted. He rolls upright and pulls through, diving onto the 109 from directly overhead. The German pilot never sees him. Klingman fires from 300 yards, a 3-second burst. 2,500 rounds converge on the 109's cockpit and engine cowling. The engine explodes. The propeller separates from the spinner and tumbles away. The 109 falls nose down, trailing black smoke and burning oil. 2 down, 7 remaining. Now the formation knows something is wrong. Klingman sees the lead Vic braking, aircraft scattering in 3 different directions. The remaining aircraft from the trailing Vic is climbing hard, trying to gain altitude and regroup. Klingman dives back to 18,000 feet, building speed again. He's burning fuel rapidly now. Every hard maneuver, every acceleration drains the tanks faster than cruise flight. He's got maybe 30 minutes remaining. He needs to press the attack before the Germans organize a coordinated response. The solo climber is his next target. Klingman turns toward it, closing at a 45-degree angle from the side. This is a deflection shot harder than a tail chase, but necessary because the 109 is climbing away. Klingman calculates lead angle instinctively, decades of hunting and crop dusting compressed into muscle memory. He pulls the Corsair's nose ahead of the 109's flight path, estimating where the target will be in 2 seconds. He fires a 4-second burst, 40 rounds per gun, 240 total. Most miss, but 12 rounds strike the 109's right wing, chewing through the aileron control surface. The 109 snaps into a spin. The pilot bails out immediately, canopy flying off, seat tumbling free. Klingman sees the parachute deploy. 3 down, 6 remaining. The remaining 6 Messerschmitts are reforming into 2 loose Vics. They're above him now, at 19,000 feet, and they've identified him. Klingman sees 109 rolling into a dive, coming straight at him, head-on. This is the most dangerous attack geometry in fighter combat. Closure rate is 700 miles per hour. Both pilots have approximately 3 seconds to aim and fire before they collide or break off. Klingman holds his course steady. The 109 grows larger in his windscreen. At 600 yards, Klingman sees muzzle flashes from the 109's nose-mounted cannon and machine guns. Tracers streak past his canopy. Klingman doesn't flinch. He waits until 400 yards, then fires a 2-second burst. The Corsair's 6 guns concentrate fire in a cone that converges at 400 yards. The 109 flies directly into the stream. Rounds shred the engine, cowling, and propeller. The 109's canopy shatters. The aircraft flips inverted and spins away. Klingman pulls hard right, rolling 90 degrees and pulling 6 Gs. The Corsair groans. Klingman's vision narrows at the edges, gray tunnel vision from blood draining away from his head. He eases off, leveling out at 18,200 feet. 4 down. 5 remaining. Now the Germans are shouting on the radio. Klingman can't understand the words, but the tone is unmistakable confusion and panic. One pilot is yelling something about Amerikaner and nicht sehen. I can't see him. The camouflage is still working, even now, even after 4 aircraft have fallen. The gray-white overcast, the broken clouds, the tritone paint scheme, all of it creates a visual confusion that delays recognition by crucial seconds. And in air combat, seconds are lifetimes. Klingman rolls into a climbing left turn, looking for the next target. He spots 2 109 seconds, diving away to the north, running for German airspace. He lets them go. 3 remain. They're circling now, at 19,500 feet, trying to locate him. Klingman is below them, orbiting in the opposite direction. He's using the same tactic fighter pilots have used since 1914. Get below, get behind, get close, get out. The Corsair's dark belly blends with the ground haze. The white topside blends with the clouds above. The 109 pilots are searching empty sky. Klingman spots 109 breaking from the circle, diving to investigate something, probably hoping to draw Klingman into a trap where the other 2 can bounce him from above. Klingman ignores the bait. He climbs instead, throttle full forward, gaining altitude while the 109 seconds are distracted. The Pratt & Whitney roars. The Corsair punches through 19,000 feet, then 20,000. Klingman levels out at 20,500 feet, higher than the circling 109 seconds. Now he's the hunter above. He rolls inverted, pulls through, and dives. The lead 109 inches the circle is centered in his gun sight. Klingman dives at a 45-degree angle, building speed to 400 miles per hour. At 500 yards, he fires. The angle is steep. The deflection is significant. Klingman holds the trigger for 5 seconds, 4,250 rounds expended. The stream of fire walks across the sky, chasing the 109. 30 rounds connect. The 109's tail section disintegrates. The aircraft tumbles end over end and breaks apart. 5 down. 4 remaining. The 2 109 seconds that ran north are gone. 2 remain in the circle. They've finally spotted Klingman. Both break toward him simultaneously. 1 high, 1 low. A classic pincer attack. Klingman needs to defeat both without allowing either a clean shot. He pulls into a vertical climb, trading speed for altitude. The Corsair climbs through 21,000 feet, then 22,000, nearly stalling. Klingman kicks left rudder at the apex, yawing the Corsair sideways. The high 109 flashes past, unable to match the climb rate. Klingman rolls inverted and pulls through again, diving after the high 109. The low 109 is climbing toward him, trying to scissor back into firing position. Klingman ignores it. He tracks the high 109, closing fast. At 300 yards, he fires a 1-second burst. Only 850 rounds remain in his ammunition bins. The burst hits the 109's left wing and fuselage. The wing folds upward, snapping at the root. The 109 cartwheels and spins. 6 down, 3 remaining. Klingman checks his fuel gauge. 15 minutes, maybe less. He's deep in German-controlled airspace. He needs to disengage. But the low 109 is closing from behind, and another 109 has appeared from the original formation. One of the runners has returned. 2 on 1. Both are climbing toward him from below and behind. Klingman pushes the stick forward and dives west toward Allied lines. The Corsair accelerates rapidly, reaching 430 miles per hour. The 109 seconds follow, but they can't match the dive speed. Klingman pulls out at 16,000 feet, 3 miles ahead of the pursuers. He's heading home. But 109 is still climbing, trying to cut him off. Klingman turns toward it, closing head on again. This is a gamble. He's got maybe 2 seconds of ammunition remaining. The 109 opens fire first. Klingman sees tracers arcing toward him. He waits. 300 yards, 250. He presses the trigger. His guns fire for 1.2 seconds before running dry. It's enough. Rounds hammer into the 109's engine. The propeller stops. The 109 noses over and glides down. 7 down. 2 remaining. The last 2 109 seconds break off the pursuit. They're low on fuel or ammunition or courage. Klingman doesn't know which. He doesn't care. He turns west, throttle set to maximum cruise, and heads for Allied territory. His fuel gauge reads 7 minutes. The Belgian countryside passes below green fields, gray roads, clusters of buildings. Klingman scans the sky constantly, searching for threats. None appear. The Germans have had enough. At the border, Klingman descends to 10,000 feet, then 5,000, then 2,000. He crosses into France and spots an Allied airfield, a temporary dirt strip with P-47 Thunderbolts parked along the tree line. He calls the tower on the emergency frequency, identifies himself, requests landing clearance. The tower operator sounds skeptical. 1 Corsair, reporting 7 German fighters destroyed? Klingman doesn't argue. He just asks for fuel. He lands with 3 minutes of fuel remaining. The ground crew swarms the Corsair, counting bullet holes. Klingman climbs out, legs shaking from adrenaline and G-forces. A P-47 pilot walks over, looks at the tritone camouflage, and laughs. "What the hell kind of paint job is that?" he asks. Klingman lights a cigarette and looks at the sky. "Invisible," he says. The mission report is filed that evening. 7th confirmed, 2 probables, 2 damaged. Intelligence officers are skeptical until 3 separate German radio intercepts are translated. The intercepts confirm a 9-plane formation was attacked by what pilots described as ein unsichtbares Flugzeug, an invisible aircraft. They reported seeing muzzle flashes and tracers but couldn't identify the attacker until it was too late. One intercept includes the phrase, "Klingman will remember for the rest of his life. Ich kann ihn nicht sehen, I can't see him." The tactical analysis that follows identifies 3 factors in Klingman's success. First, the tritone camouflage created a visual disruption effect at high altitude that delayed recognition by an estimated 4 to 7 seconds per engagement. Second, Klingman's throttle discipline and formation flying patience allowed him to close to effective range without detection. Third, his deflection, shooting, and energy management demonstrated mastery of basic fighter tactics that the Germans, experienced as they were, failed to counter effectively. But the analysts missed the real lesson. Klingman didn't win because of the paint, or the plane, or even the tactics. He won because he saw clearly when the enemy could not. He understood light and shadow, and the way human eyes fail at 18,000 feet under overcast skies. He understood patience, he understood math, and he understood that wars are decided in the 3 seconds between recognition and reaction. The tritone camouflage scheme is never adopted for European operations. After the war, Navy officials declare it unsuitable for continental combat. But 4 other Corsairs are painted identically for experimental purposes, and all 4 rack up improbable kill ratios in late 1944 and early 1945 missions. Klingman survives the war, returns to Minnesota, and never flies crop dusters again. He joins commercial aviation, flying DC 3 seconds and later 707 seconds for Northwest Airlines. When asked about the mission, he deflects. He doesn't talk about courage or heroism. He talks about visibility angles and convergence zones and the way the Pratt & Whitney R2800 delivers maximum torque at 1700 RPM. He talks like an engineer, because that's what fighter pilots are. Engineers who calculate death at 400 miles per hour and bet their lives on the math being correct. The October 23 mission becomes a footnote in tactical aviation history, cited occasionally in camouflage studies and visual perception research. Klingman's name appears in no popular histories. He receives no medals beyond the standard campaign ribbons. But pilots know, the men who fly know, that every so often, on the edge of human capability, someone sees what others miss. They know that combat is decided, not by aggression or bravery, but by the quiet competence of men who understand their machines and their environment and the intersection of both. They know that the invisible fighter over Belgium wasn't invisible at all. It was simply painted and flown by someone who understood how to disappear in plain sight. Wars are often decided not by noise or fury, but by the pilots who see clearly when others cannot.